Hey everyone, and welcome back to Whizbit's Random Gaming, and today we're going to be doing a game tour of my local retro shop, Retro Giant. Now don't forget, if you do happen to like this kind of content, please take the time to consider subscribing to the channel, get involved, leave us a comment, share the video, give us a thumbs up. All that good stuff, it helps my content reach further and get seen. It's much appreciated if you do take the time to do so. Right, anyway, let's start off with some classic Master System games here. Now, I love the Master System. The first console I ever owned, I've said it once, I'll say it again, I don't count the Atari 2600. It broke on Christmas Day. We don't talk about that. Not too often, anyway. Now, as you can see here, they've got a great selection of Master System games here. From the common stuff like your Sonics, your Columns, to the more obscure stuff as well. Let's have a look at some Mega Drive stuff that they've got in the cabinets here. And the Mega Drive content that they've got in this shop is absolutely crazy. Now, I'm always looking to improve my Dreamcast collection because, in all honesty, I haven't got that many games on the Dreamcast. And I do like to pick a few up here and there just to improve the collection. It's definitely a console I haven't played enough of since its inception. And yeah, definitely a lot of games here that I could consider picking up today. The choice is almost overwhelming. Even more Mega Drive stuff here. You've got Eternal Champions up there in the top left hand corner. I've never been a fan of that game, but it definitely has its own sort of cult following. Tournament Fighters there at a really good price at £45. I do think the Mega Drive / Genesis version is the poorer of the two 16-bit ones, but nevertheless, that's a good price. Got Fire Shark right there. That game, or at least the arcade version, I don't think I've played the Mega Drive one. The arcade one is brutal. Got Wiz and Liz there. That's quite an expensive one and not a game you see out too often. And there you've got Fatal Fury. I love the Fatal Fury series. I know a lot of people, when I was at school, used to look at it as a really bad Street Fighter knockoff. I didn't see it that way. I thought it was a very, very good game in its own right. And I think that's proved to be the case today because obviously it's gone on to bigger and better things. You would have seen Dark Castle there earlier. Really bad game, that one. Really, really bad game. It's kind of another game that's got that cult following to it. Splathouse 2, absolutely love that game. One of my favourites of all time. Now, I never played this Tough Man contest. I do remember seeing it in a few shops in the 90s, but never had the chance to play it. And truth be told, I'm in no rush to actually change that. Now, they've got a really good selection of box Super Nintendo stuff in this shop, I must say. Some of the common ones, some of the more obscure ones, as you'll see as we go through. Super Bomberman 2, that looks in really, really good condition, I must say. And who doesn't like Bomberman? Now here is a real heavy hitter. Separation Anxiety, £500. Not in the best condition either, I must say, but let's be honest, it's not something you see too often. Now, I haven't seen two copies of Plock on the Super Nintendo next to each other since the bargain basement days of Woolworths. Yes, who remembers the bargain bin in Woolworths? I remember picking up Ultraman and Pit Fighter for the grand total of £5 each in the 90s. Super Ghouls and Ghosts there, one of my favourite Super Nintendo games. Quite proud to say I've actually completed that game. That is a very, very difficult game. It's notoriously difficult. If you know, you know. As we move on to the boxed Nintendo 64 stuff, some pretty good stuff in here. I'm not a massive fan of the 64 if I'm honest with you, but definitely some good condition stuff in here and a good variety of titles. We've got F-Zero X there. That is a really good 64 game, I must say. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan, but I have to give credit where credit is due. And F-Zero X is a fantastic game. So if you're thinking about popping down to the Retro Giant, this is their Romford branch. They also do have a branch in Brentwood, which I do plan on visiting in the near future. I'll leave a link to their website and their address in the comments below. But as you can see, not only do they sell video games, they also now sell a large variety of Pokemon stuff. And not often you see a Sega Menacer out and about. Nothing screams more 1990s than the Menacer and the Super Scope. Now, like most retro shops, a huge variety of PlayStation 2 stuff. One that I'm always checking out as well. Wasn't a great deal here today that I had my eye on, but always worth keeping an eye out. Steve and Lucy, who run Retro Giant, are constantly adding new titles to the stock. So even if you've been there a couple of days beforehand and you pop back in, it's always worth digging around and looking again, because there's a good chance there's some titles that weren't there on your previous visit. Right, as we browse the PlayStation 3 section, I'm gonna once again big up Steve, big up Lucy, who run the Retro Giant. It's always nice to know that your local retro shop, or even just retro shop in general, has got very welcoming owners. These guys, whenever you go in there, always willing to have a chat. Very relaxed atmosphere in the shop, and I always enjoy my time in Retro Giant. Not the biggest of GameCube selections, I must say, but a very decent selection of Sega Saturn games. And considering the format that the Sega Saturn games came in, this cardboard format, most of the stuff on display here is in really, really good condition. Some really good Nintendo NES stuff here as well, boxed and unboxed. I mean, the NES is one of those systems that personally I don't collect for it anymore, but if I did so, I wouldn't mind collecting unboxed because of the size of the cartridges. You can stack them and display them quite well. Got Shadow Warriors that you've just seen previously, aka Ninja Gaiden. Going to be an upcoming episode of Unfinished Business. I highly doubt I'm going to be finishing that business, but I'm going to give it a go nevertheless. Very, very good condition copy of Mario 3 there, and at the bottom a fantastic game there, Gremlins 2. Brilliant, brilliant title. Now we move into some more unboxed cartridge stuff, your Mega Drive, your N64. And as you can see, it's a great variety of games here. The N64 is another one that I believe is quite popular to collect for without box, and it's just due to the way that you can display cartridges. Now, as you've seen with every other system that we've highlighted during the course of this video, the Game Boy is no exception. A great selection of stock here in the Retro Giant today. Now, this is the box section. I do know somewhere else in the shop they've got a section with unboxed Game Boy games, and they've got loads. Up there you got the power base converter for the Mega Drive, which lets you play your Master System games on your Mega Drive. That was a backwards compatibility before it was even a thing. Now, I'm not into the whole Funko Pop thing, but here, if you do want to pick anything up, they've got a good selection. The only one I would ever buy myself personally is if I see Ash Williams and I never see him out and around. Now here we've got the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, and I was really tempted by this one, the Fatal Fury Archives. £50 though, and I'll be honest, I can probably emulate every one of those games, so I didn't want to pick it up today. I was tempted by this Double Dragon 4 at £35. Cover wasn't in the greatest of conditions, and it's not the greatest of games either. I only own it digitally, but I wouldn't mind having that one in the collection. At £35, I believe, not too bad a price, all things considered. It's a really good time to be buying on a PlayStation 4. Lots of stuff is as cheap as it's ever going to be. So yeah, it's a good time. Keep an eye out on what you want on the PlayStation 4. Something you might have missed previously. Might be the best time to buy it right now. Now, I love buying on the OG Xbox. Wasn't a great deal there today that I wanted. However, I did pick up one title. So I'll let you wait until the end to see what I got. Some 360 stuff as well. Nothing that really stood out here today for me personally anyway. And of course some Xbox One stuff as well. Now I do speak to some shop owners and they tell me they really struggle with the Xbox One stuff ever since Game Pass came out. Now that right there is a big old joystick. I'm sure that's got plenty of games stored away inside. Now if you're looking for consoles as well, Retro Giant has definitely got what you need. Some great bundles here that they package together with the leads that you need and occasionally with a game as well. So if you want to just go home and play an old school console on your modern TV, these guys will give you the package you need. Now here's something I do want to pick up at some point in the future. I do like the Vestrex. Only recently played one for the first time in the last year or so when I went to the Science Museum in London. But yeah, really love that thing. Now I love the artwork on that Street Fighter collection. I think it's the NTSC version. So it wouldn't be any good to me, but yeah, I definitely prefer the artwork on that to a couple of the ones that we received in the UK. Kung Fury on the Switch there. Never see that one out and about. Now look at these great condition SPs. And the very rare black and white copy of the Getaway on the PlayStation 2, £350. And one of the highlights for me in the Romford branch is the PlayStation 1 wall. As you can see here, they've got an absolute ton of PlayStation 1 stock. Now, oddly enough, I was looking for The Simpsons Wrestling today. I want to do an upcoming video on it. About how bad the game is and my time with it. I remember buying it upon release, so I'd like to document something about that. Unfortunately, I didn't have a copy today, but I'm going to be popping down to the Brentwood store at some point and hopefully they might have a copy there. So we finish off stock-wise with a good selection of PS Vita games. More than you see in any CEX if you ask me. So admittedly, on the day, I only went out to pick up one game, which you will see at the end of the video, which wasn't actually picked up from Retro Giant. Now, after giving mech games a bit of a hard time in my last video, I picked up Mech Assault 2. Thought, why not? Let's give it a go and see if I can get to grips with mech games. We also picked up Silent Scope, which I left recently in one of my £10 challenge videos. I think I need to get into those games. They're cheap and I did like the arcade originals. And this is the game that I went out for. Unfortunately, it wasn't in stock on the day in Retro Giant, as I would have quite happily picked it up from those guys. However, I had to go to Argus, yes, that's the posh way of saying it, to pick up this one. And that's the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. Very happy to have this one anyway, and I'll be looking forward to playing some people online. Anyway guys, that was my local retro shop, which is Retro Giant. Big shout to Steve, big shout to Lucy, two of the nicest people you can meet, running two great shops, not just one. We also have a branch in Brentwood as well, which I do plan on visiting very shortly. If you can get yourself down there, they will appreciate your support. They're definitely one of the best, if not the best, retro gaming shop in Essex, in my opinion. As always guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. My pickups might have been a little bit uninspiring considering the stock that these guys have got, But I hope you enjoyed it and you get down there soon. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.